Hello and welcome to Oddspedia Bundesliga Matchday 18. We are back this week to see more games in Germany, hopefully also in Hamburg, Ronan, where it's impossible to play football now in January. And we saw again a great Bayern Munich. We have a special game on Saturday. The highlight is RB Leipzig, Bayern Munich.
Yeah, it should be a great one this weekend after we have some midweek games, a change of scenery in Germany. We don't usually have the midweek games, English or Woche, as they call it, the English week, because they're not used to having matches on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday like we've had this week. So yeah, it's great to see the games come thick and fast. But like you said, some of the games we haven't had because of the snow in Germany and the bad weather. But I just saw at the weekend, Dynamo Dresden, their ground at the weekend was used for the German hockey match. They had an outdoor game in the hockey game. So maybe if one of the games is postponed this weekend, we can decide that teams can play hockey instead of football.
Indeed. Well, we have the Winter Olympics coming up, so it's a good idea, especially if you go to Hamburg. Well, really interesting, the fight for the Champions League, the fight for avoiding relegation. So let's talk about it in a minute. Remember, guys, of course, let me know your comments in the video. And now let's go on with the show. And still we have a game on Friday. It's Werder Bremen, Eintracht Frankfurt. Eintracht now 7th in the standings. Defeat in Stuttgart with plenty of goals, as you predicted. A little bit now far from Europe, winless in the last 3. Werder Bremen, 5 points away from relegation. Also, Ronan, you predicted the defeat in Dortmund.
Yeah, I think Frankfurt are still giving us what we expected, plenty of goals, but they need to turn those goals into wins. And I think that the problem at the moment is the defence. They're just conceding too many goals. And after the game, the Frankfurt CEO, 𝗵𝐼 came out and said he compared the defending of the team to under 15 defending. So he wasn't very impressed. He said that the mistakes they were making were things that you would learn how to fix when you're playing at C level or C youth level, which is the under 15 competition in Germany. So yeah, Frankfurt really need to get better at the back, but they are scoring plenty of goals. And the only kind of bad thing for me from that match, I think, was I jinxed 𝗵𝗵𝗏𝗏. He's now injured for 6 weeks. I said he was going to score. It was the second game since signing from Wolfsburg. He went off with a knee injury, and now he's out for 4 to 6 weeks, according to Sky Germany. So he'll be a bit of a loss up front. But like I said, they still have other players to score goals. They have 3 other fit forwards. 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐬 scored a couple of weeks ago. He scored from penalty spot. So yeah, this is a team that can continue to score goals. And Bremen, on the other hand, they are a team who don't score goals. They have scored in their last 3 games, and that should help Frankfurt's leaky defence maybe to shut up shop a little. Total goals over 3 in this one is 196, which I like to look at, but Smart Bet is going for under 3.5 goals at 161. So the robots are disagreeing, and maybe that's because Bremen haven't been scoring a lot of goals recently. We kind of have to look at Frankfurt winning this one. If Bremen can't score, Frankfurt usually do score. Frankfurt win at 266 looks really good, but if you want to go a bit safer, Frankfurt Asian handicap 0 is 197.
Let's see if they can bounce back before playing in the Champions League. By the way, your ACCA was correct, Ronan. Once again, Frankfurt traveling far away to Karabakh to play Champions League to Azerbaijan, right? Is Karabakh. On Saturday, we have Dortmund, Pauli. Here, of course, Dortmund to win looks good. It's only 1.37. As I mentioned before, they won easily against Werder Bremen. I asked you about 𝗵𝗏𝗏, and he finally scored in the last 3 home games, 3 wins, 2-0 for Dortmund, and Pauli lost to Wolfsburg, conceding in the last minute, so they drop into the bottom 2. Now there is 3 teams with 12 points, Mainz, Pauli, and Heidenheim.
Yes, Pauli, they really should have lost that match to Wolfsburg. The defending for the winning goal was just absolutely crazy. They just kind of passed the ball to the winger instead of clearing it, and then they all kind of ran into each other in the box, or they were in the wrong position. At least they didn't actually physically run into each other, but they're all just in the one place, crowded around and watching as the header went in. And yeah, that's the kind of goals that you can't give away if you're a team like St. Pauli. And teams like Borussia Dortmund, they will punish mistakes like that. They have done it in the past, and they at home they've been excellent recently. Like you said, they have keeping these clean sheets, and they have 6 clean sheets in 8 home games this season. That's the most in the Bundesliga. So they have been absolute sensation at home. It was 3-3 in the match in Hamburg in August. So because it's week match day 18, we're finally getting to say what the match was like in the first half of the season, because in Germany the fixtures are the exact same in the second half of the season as they were in the first half of the season. It's not like other leagues where it's kind of a bit random. It's the same kind of order again. So it should give us a kind of feel for things. And you look back at that match at the start of the season, and Borussia Dortmund have improved a lot since then. St. Pauli have been as inconsistent as maybe expected. If you look at the smart bet here, it's going for 4 stars for both teams to score no at 179. You can see why, because Borussia Dortmund are at home. They keep keeping so many clean sheets at home. This could be their 7th clean sheet of the season at home in the Bundesliga. So Borussia Dortmund to win to 0 looks really good, 220.
All right, then we have Cologne, Mainz. Now Mainz in the play-out spots. It was a crucial game against Heidenheim, and they won it. They are in a good run, and we have value here, I think, Ronan, if we want to back Mainz. They are really the underdog, because Cologne, okay, they got defeated against Bayern as expected, but they are in really bad form. 8 winless games now after a great start of the season.
Yeah, I think they started pretty well in that game against Bayern Munich as well. They were counter-attacking well. They were creating chances. It was an open enough match, which you usually don't expect from Bayern Munich. They expect them to dominate teams, and the scoreline kind of reflected that. But that was more the second half than the first half, and I think that maybe kind of might deflate Cologne a bit, that they were in with a chance, and then they sort of blew it, as teams do against Bayern Munich. Whereas Mainz, they seem to be a team that are filled with confidence. They've really kind of turned a corner since December. They're on a great run and things. They have started the year off pretty well since the winter break. It was 1-0 earlier this season. And if you look at the matches that we see between these two sides, they don't ever tend to be high-scoring matches. We don't really expect a high-scoring match. None of the last 4 meetings between them have had more than 2 goals. 3 of those matches were draws, so maybe Mainz double chance could be worth a look, because I know you fancy Mainz of doing something in this one, but I think it's just going to be a kind of a low scoring affair. Over 2.5 goals for these two teams. Only 56% of Cologne's games so far, but less than half for Mainz. It's 41% of the time. The most common result when these two teams play is a 1-0. So total goals under 2.75 at 191. Maybe that'll feed into Mainz getting a point or 3 points here, maybe in a low scoring match.
Smart bet, full-time result, Mainz going for the away win with these beautiful odds of 3.3. Perhaps also, as you said, the double chance could be another good option. Then we have Hamburg, Gladbach. Hamburg 4 points away from Mainz. Let's see if we can see a game in this city in the north of Germany. The midweek game postponed, but strong at home in general. 2 wins and 2 draws in the last home games. Gladbach 5-1 to Hoffenheim, 3 defeats in the last 4 games.
Yeah, I think looking at that match, and my prediction saying Gladbach might do something on the road and go with the smart bet there. I think I overestimated Gladbach, maybe definitely underestimated Hoffenheim with that one. But that happens sometimes. Obviously, you can't win them all, but we're here to try and win more than we lose. That's the hope. But Hamburg, yeah, hopefully this match goes ahead, because the reason that it was kind of called off the midweek game is because they were worried about the kind of structural integrity, or the roof kind of holding up with all the snow. So as long as we don't have any more snow before the weekend, we should see this one. So maybe there should be a market on whether Hamburg matches in Hamburg could go ahead. That could be odds we could give yes or no whether matches in Hamburg go ahead. If you look at it, when these teams played earlier in the season, it was a scoreless draw. Hamburg are not in great form at the moment. There's no wins in 3 games. As we said, we didn't have a chance to play against Leverkusen, but you would think that maybe they might have won that one either. Hoffenheim, Gladbach on Wednesday, it was was just a very one-sided match. Hoffenheim scored 2 very early goals, and then Gladbach never really got back into it. Gladbach did beat Augsburg 4-0 before that, so there is kind of hope that Gladbach can do something, and maybe that's what was kind of fooling me into thinking that this Gladbach team had improved. But the smart bet is going with Hamburg here for everything. It thinks Hamburg's going to win the first half, going to win the match, going to win everything here. But I still think that Gladbach have something about them. Maybe I am deluded, but I wouldn't bet too much on it. But just in case, I still like Gladbach Asian handicap 0 at 2.11.
Okay, well, smart bet 1x for Hamburg, really high odds for this game. The bookies expect a draw, and a really interesting game is the next one, Hoffenheim Bayern Leverkusen for the Champions League or the European spots. Right now, 5th and 6th in the standings with Leverkusen. One game in hand. Remember the previous one that they played, they lost at home 1-4 with Stuttgart. Hoffenheim very close to the Champions League spots after beating Gladbach 5-1. Great season still for them, especially at home.
Yeah, and it's great to see some of the other younger players kind of scoring for them. Max Morstedt was among the goals in that 5-1 win. So yeah, it's good to see that they're kind of bringing young players through, and it is kind of the way that they've operated in the past. When Julian Nagelsmann was there, they were trying to develop these younger players, and it's good to see it succeeding because hopefully other teams can follow that model. I know traditional German fans in the past have complained about kind of their ownership model being somewhat outside the 50+1 rules because they were owned by the owner of the SAP software company, and he got them up from the lower division. So not quite Red Bull buying out a team, but it's kind of seen as a bit more of an English style approach. But Dietmar Hopp, who was involved in that, isn't involved anymore. So they have come back to trying to be a more traditional club. So long may it continue that they bring these young players through. If you remember back to the start of the season, like I said, this is the same as the first game of the season. So that was a 2-1 win for Hoffenheim, and Erik ten Hag got his marching orders soon after. So yeah, the Bayer Leverkusen will be hoping under 𝐬𝐭𝐴, the new boss, that the history doesn't repeat itself here. If you look at the last 6 meetings between the sides, all of them have both teams to score yes in them. So both teams to score yes is a good option here. It's only 148 though, so we have to look elsewhere. Over 2.5 goals for these sides, 71% of the time for Hoffenheim, 64% of the time for Leverkusen. The last 9 meetings between them have had 3 goals or more. And like we saw from Hoffenheim in midweek, they are scoring lots of goals at the moment. So total goals over 3 is 183.
And for this one for Europe, this one for the relegation, Wolfsburg, Heidenheim. Wolfsburg want to have a quiet second half of the season, and they were able to beat Pauli to put some distance with the bottom 3. If they win here, they will definitely be far away from relegation. Heidenheim is only 1 point in the last 4 games, losing against Mainz, draw against Cologne. Is already far away, these back-to-back wins that gave them hope to stay in the Bundesliga. But Ronan, only 2 points away from Augsburg is true, but they've been down there the whole season.
Yeah, now they're last after that. So after that, last week since January, so now they're last, and it doesn't look like things are getting any better. Whereas Wolfsburg, I think they have a bit of hope. They battled very hard against the match with Pauli. I said it was going to be a first half draw, and that came in, which was good. But I wasn't willing to put my neck on the line and say either team would win, and I'm glad I didn't because yeah, maybe it was looking like it was going to be a draw with just a few minutes left. But then Wolfsburg popped up with that late winner that we spoke about earlier. So yeah, Wolfsburg won this match earlier in the season 3-1. That Wolfsburg win again here doesn't look too bad at 179. But if you look at the man who scored that winner and the man who has been scoring the goals for Wolfsburg, 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏, he has 5 goals in his last 3 games for Wolfsburg. He scored a hat-trick before Christmas. He scored once against Bayern Munich, so he scored that winner against Pauli. He is the man on form at the moment. And when you're looking at anytime goal scorer bets, you have to look at the players, the strikers who are in form. They are the most likely to score because they are full of confidence. Football and being a striker is a very confidence kind of driven game. You hear about it all the time from pundits. Oh, he just needs to score and then he'll break his duck or this sort of thing. But if you're scoring in every game that you're playing, then why not continue that bet? So 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 as an anytime goal scorer, 230.
Well, and the best game, as I mentioned before this week, is RB Leipzig, Bayern Munich. Remember, at the beginning of the season, we saw 6-0 for Bayern Munich. I guess Leipzig would want revenge after that heavy defeat, and coming from a bad season, they went into a really good run, and right now they are third in the standings, 2 points ahead of Hoffenheim, with the goal, of course, to qualify for the Champions League, and they beat Freiburg with Orban or Romulo scoring in the previous game. And for Bayern, this is only getting better and better this season. We should add up Karl Ronan. He was heavily criticized after his words about Real Madrid. He didn't score in the 8-1 against Wolfsburg, but he did last game on Wednesday.
Yeah, he did, and it was a great assist from Luis Diaz to set him up. Diaz kind of unselfishly kind of let it off, and then it was a fine low finish from Karl, and that's kind of what Bayern Munich have come to expect from him, because he's been kind of a revelation. It's with 𝗷𝗵𝐿𝐻𝐼𝐴 out, I think he's got the chance to maybe play a bit more than he would have had 𝗷𝗵𝐿𝐻𝐼AC being fit, and now Bayern Munich are going to have this headache of having too many forwards, and all those forwards are contributing goals. I said before that match against Cologne that it wasn't necessarily clear who was going to get among the goals, and I'm glad I didn't pick an anytime goal scorer, because I probably wouldn't have picked any of the three guys who scored in that match. But that shows Bayern Munich kind of depth throughout the squad. They just have so many goals. They're scoring so many goals. They're 47 points at the halfway stage of the season. It's the joint best record start in the Bundesliga with Pep Guardiola's Bayern Munich, but the 66 goals they've scored, that's the most ever at the halfway stage in Bundesliga. So they just keep scoring. They will score goals against anybody. I think the only positive maybe for bettors that came out of that Cologne game is that if Bayern Munich go down, that's the perfect time to bet on Bayern Munich when they're losing, because you are confident that they're going to come back and win matches. If they go behind, they're not like other teams. They don't let their heads drop. They come back and they score goals and goals and goals. Like you said, it was a 6-0 win in August. I think Bayern Munich can win this one again, 163. But if you look at the last three meetings between these two sides, they've all had 6 goals in them. Bayern Munich won 5-1 and drew 3-3 last season. Then it was 6-0 earlier this season. I'm not saying there's definitely going to be 6 goals in this one again, but over 3.5 total goals does stand a good chance of coming in at 192, because Bayern Munich scored 2 or more goals in every game. They have done it every game this season. Over 1.5 goals at half time. I'm having a look at it because the odds are a bit better there than other odds you can go for in Bayern Munich matches. So 56% of the time in Leipzig matches, they've had over 1.5 goals at half time from either team, and 76% of the time in Bayern Munich matches. So 3/4 of the time, there's 2 goals at half time in a Bayern Munich match. I think it'll happen again here. So over 1.5 first half goals is 191.
I'm puzzled by our smart bet tool for this match day in the Bundesliga. We have to come back next week and check it out, Ronan, because for this game we have double chance for Leipzig. 1x, it would be a huge surprise, 2.5, and also under 3.5 goals odds at 2. So 2 things that we don't expect, actually. And for the previous one, Wolfsburg, Heidenheim, also going for a double chance for Heidenheim. In this case, also, I wouldn't put my money there, but this is our smart bet tool. And remember, the tool analyzes so many data points, so it's also good to take it in consideration before placing your bets. Who do you think has been or is been the best player so far in the Bundesliga? Ronan, we have Harry Kane, 20 goals, 4 assists. Luis Diaz, 9 goals, 7 assists. Michael Olise, 9 goals, 6 assists. Of course, the usual suspect is Harry Kane, but the other 2 have had a big impact as well.
Yeah, I like the way you've only mentioned Bayern Munich players.
The other one is Undas. Could be Undas, right? 10 goals, 2 assists.
Yeah,
Tabakovic, 9-2.
Yeah, of the attacking players, you kind of have to look at Luis Diaz as probably the best player of the season so far, because the difference he's made, and like I said on the midweek show that we had, that he's hit 10 goals and 10 assists so far, and his assist for Leonard Carl was his 18th, bringing up to kind of the levels that he was showing over a season at Liverpool, I think he's equaled his best ever season already, and it's only half a season. In the league, he now has 18 goal contributions, I think. So yeah, I think that was his best ever contribution in the Premier League, and he's already done it in the Bundesliga, and it's only the halfway stage, so he could double that. So yeah, 𝐿uis Díaz, I think he's been such a great signing for them. Such a huge improvement on 𝗍𝐿𝐴, who was kind of so inconsistent. I'm not sure he ever got double figures for goals or ever got double figures for assists at Bayern Munich. So yeah, 𝐿uis Díaz is I think he's the sign of the season, but probably also the player of the season because he makes Bayern Munich's attack so much better.
Doing slightly better than Florian Wirtz, 𝐿uis Díaz. And for Sunday, we have two games. Stuttgart, Union Berlin is a good one because Stuttgart are now in the top 4 in Champions League spots after beating Frankfurt and Leverkusen, direct rivals. One of the names that I mentioned before, Deniz Undav, again in the score sheet in the game against Frankfurt and Union Berlin. We have to see them playing on Thursday, but also they are in good form.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it depends how tired maybe they might be after that game on Thursday, because it's a quick enough turnaround, I suppose, for them. And traveling to Stuttgart is always a tricky affair. Playing there just beside the Mercedes Museum in Stuttgart, it's a great footballing trip if you ever get a chance to go. There's plenty to do in Stuttgart, but yeah, at the moment the thing to do in Stuttgart is put the ball in the net by Deniz Undav. Like you've been saying, he has 9 goals in his last 9 Bundesliga games for Stuttgart, and yeah, hopefully he can kind of give the Union Berlin coach Steffen Baumgart a bit of a headache after a great week for Baumgart, where he was given a new Union Berlin contract. They didn't actually reveal how long the contract is. They didn't say when it's until, but yeah, it shows the great job he's been doing. But Stuttgart, they've been doing a fantastic job this season, and you like Deniz Undav. I like Deniz Undav, so I'm going for him as an anytime goal scorer at 240. Like I said, he has 9 goals in the last 9 appearances, so why not here? Stuttgart are unbeaten in 5 matches in all competitions. They've scored 3 goals in the 4 wins they've won. That it was an 0-0 draw actually, but they've scored 3 or more goals in 4 of those 5 matches. So Stuttgart over 1.5 goals, just themselves, not 1.5 goals total in the match, just Stuttgart themselves to score 1.5 or more goals. That's 180.
And the other game we have on Sunday is Augsburg-Freiburg. Augsburg now in risk, only 2 points away from the relegation spots, playing at home against Freiburg, also far away from Europe, lost to Leipzig after beating Hamburg and Wolfsburg. They are now 6 points away from European positions where we were used to see them.
Yeah, I think that's what happens when you kind of have a busier season and these things kind of happen, and maybe this is a match that we could look at as a draw. The most common result here is a 1-1. It was 0-0 in Augsburg last season. Freiburg, I think the reason maybe they're slipped down the table is because they have so many draws so far. They have 5 draws so far this season. They are a team that's drawn too many matches. So a draw here at 346 could be a good option. Freiburg double chance is only 145, so I'm not really looking at that because there's not great value in it. You could go for it if you kind of want to hedge your bets maybe, but you could hedge your bets also with a Freiburg draw no bet at 177.
Well, Ronan, smart bet first half, Freiburg to win at halftime, 3.10. Another good option if you want the high odds for this Augsburg-Freiburg. This is it for the Bundesliga week. Very busy in Germany. Remember, guys, you can post your tips in Oddspedia and participate in our tipster competition. Some money to be made there, yearly ones, monthly ones. We have also NBA, we have Premier League, so plenty of options, and you can also check rivals and create your own tipster league, tipster competition, and play with your friends. Next week, plenty of action also, Ronan, again with Champions League, with Europa League. And tell me before we say goodbye, your safe bet and ACCA were correct in the last video. So let's try again. Let's do it again, Ronan.
Yeah, we're going for a Dortmund win for the safe bet, 139.
And your ACCA?
My ACCA is Frankfurt, Asian handicap 0, and Wolfsburg to win. And that's a total of 353.
I like your double. Simple and good way to make some money with the ACCAs indeed without risking too much. Thank you, Ronan. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.